snare.
Woo! Alright, so egalitarianism, humanism, that sort of stuff. And then animal rights activism. They don't seem to have much to do with each other, but there's a method, we promise. So both of these movements are done in a way that really ignores the harsh realities that marginalized populations face. It's used in a way that assumes all humans are given equal opportunity, are at the same level.
And it would be awful nice if they were, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not. Both of these movements ignore the harsh realities of oppression that marginalized people face. And so they both are kind of used as tools against marginalized people sometimes, and it's really nasty.
Yeah, I mean, they might have like a good intention in mind, but it just doesn't wind up like that.
Yeah. So first, egalitarianism, humanism, those two, I don't know, there may be some other ones, but those are the two that pop up the most often. So these are two words that kind of like treat all humans the same and ignore that marginalized people face problems. So like, egalitarianism pops up most when people are talking about feminism. They're like, oh, feminism, like, why are you focusing on women? That's just as sexist as sexism against women. It's just as bad. I'm an egalitarian. I think all genders should be equal. And that's a great attitude?
Yes, all genders should be equal, but the problem is they're not.
Yeah, like, the thing is, so egalitarianism is all about treating men and women equally, which is not what women are looking for. We don't want equality, we want liberation. We want liberation from the patriarchy. It is much more complicated than equal treatment. We don't want equality, we want equity. The difference between these two things is crucial. Equity is what we want. And equity is what all marginalized people want. We want equity, we want justice, we want liberation. Equal treatment is not going to help us. We need to be broken from the centuries of oppression that we have faced. All of those systems need to be broken down, and then we can start talking about equality. Same thing with humanism, but humanism generally shows up when people are talking about race. It's a term that's just steeped in colorblind bullshit. So neither of those words are words that you want to claim. They're words that really are used more as a tool against marginalized people than as a force for good. So, yeah, they suck.
Anyway, so animal rights comes into all of this because, well, the idea of the animal rights groups is pretty nice once you think about it. Animals deserve rights. They deserve to be treated humanely and decently and not systematically killed and tortured. But these animal rights groups sometimes kind of push human rights out the window, which is kind of bad.
Yeah, and there's many ways that this happens. Generally, it happens with saying that all humans are awful and like things like that. It's very like, you're all the same, you're all awful unless you're vegan, basically. And that's a really nasty thing because a lot of people can't afford to be vegan even if they wanted to, and there's nothing wrong with not being vegan. Like, there's so many things that go into that and so many problems with it, but it's most harshly used against marginalized people generally, just because like society has a ton of prejudices. Those get like ingrained, and like a lot of the time it'll be used in a way of like, hey, you suffered racism, you shouldn't be then turning around and like making an animal suffer, and that is an awful attitude. Do not do that. Racism, A, is not over. So like the way that and a lot of animal rights activists talk about animal rights, assumes that all human rights have already been won. This is not true. Racism is still alive, sexism is still alive, all of these isms are still very much alive.
Some animal rights groups actually do use sexist and racist advertising, which is kind of evil.
Yeah, this happens a lot with PETA.
Yeah.
Oh god, PETA.
They released a really, really awful ad campaign
Okay.
like a while ago.
So they'll do a lot of ads that take marginalized people and like compare their suffering to animal suffering, which is a way of dehumanizing them. Like, it's awful. Dehumanization is a tool of oppression. So like, if you're fighting for animal rights by oppressing people, that's maybe not the best way to go.
Like, they had an ad that showed a woman like divided up like into cuts like an animal would be, and that was just so offensive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that one in particular, like, it was treating her like a like sex object and an animal
Like,
that
literally,
people
like
can
a piece of
buy
meat.
and yeah, a piece of meat, which is how women get treated a lot, as pieces of meat that like guys just want to do, you know? It's so that's not good. And there's another one that had a picture of a concentration camp during the Holocaust next to a picture of cows being treated inhumanely as a way of comparing them. That's just so not okay.
Yeah.
So not okay. Like, it's basically a lot of animal rights groups kind of use marginalized people and their suffering as tools to bring animal suffering to light. So they're using marginalized people as tools and throwing them under the bus in order to try to get animal rights ahead.
And that's not cool. It's not cool to just use people for your own ulterior motives, even if you think your ulterior motives are good. So we're not saying that nobody should be animal rights activists. You should. Just do it the right way.
Yeah, like, animals should be treated humanely. There are a lot of problems with animal cruelty. There are a lot of systematic issues with how our meat is treated and things like that. There are some serious issues, but the animal rights movement is not my friend.
Yeah.
So I definitely think animals should be treated humanely. I'm not an animal rights activist. I'm not in that movement. I'm not joining them. No. So that's all. We don't have a positive corner or any of that today.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry
it's
about
basically we're taking the movement and spending the entire film talking about the movement. So our last section generally just blown up. And so we don't have a positive corner or anything like that, but let's talk about moving forward.
So
what's going to happen?
This series is over now, but we might want to continue on a later date.
Yeah, this was a class project, so we're thinking we want to continue it. It'll be a while because next quarter is going to be super busy, but it'll be continued under a different name and all that. So this will stay up, but this is all for isms. And when we revamp it, it'll be more what we originally had pictured. We had to change a few things because it ended up being a class project.
We had to tone it down a bit for class, so.
Yeah, we had a lot of things that we had to change due to it being a class project. And so if we continue it, which we're pretty sure we want to, it's just a matter of finding the time to. So I guess when we continue it, it'll be under a different name, under a little bit of a different style, and a lot more planned.
Sort of. And
So,
we'll hope you'll
yeah.
keep watching then. Thanks for watching till now.
Yep.
Bye guys.
Thanks for taking Isms 101.